Tonight, you rest beside a quiet northern fjord once more, where dark waters meet the shadowed edges of pine forests, and the distant glow of snow-covered mountains reflects faintly beneath the stars. The night is calm, and the wind moves gently along the slopes, carrying with it the scent of cold earth, timber, and distant sea spray. The sky above is wide and patient, streaked faintly with drifting clouds that pass slowly across the moon, softening its light as it settles over the land. Along the curve of the shoreline, not far from where you sit, small clusters of homes stand in stillness, their shapes low and grounded, built to endure the long seasons of wind and frost that shape life in these northern lands. These are the homes of the Scandinavian coast during the Viking Age. Places not of grandeur, but of endurance. Shelters shaped not by decoration, but by necessity, designed to hold warmth, to resist storms, and to provide safety through winters that could last the greater part of a year. From the outside, they appear simple at first glance. Long, low structures of timber and sod, their roofs softened by layers of packed earth and grass, blending almost seamlessly into the surrounding terrain. In winter, thick snow gathers across these roofs, forming an insulating blanket that helps keep the cold from penetrating inside. In summer, wild grasses grow gently overhead, stirred by the same winds that travel across the fjord's surface. Seen from a distance, the homes appear almost like natural rises in the land, subtle, unobtrusive, shaped by both human hands and the environment itself. The walls are built from heavy wooden beams, cut from nearby forests and shaped slowly by hand. Each beam carries the marks of tools and labor, its surface smoothed only where necessary. Stone foundations anchor the structures to the earth below, protecting them from shifting frost, seasonal thaw, and the slow movement of wet soil beneath the surface. Every material used in construction is drawn from the land itself. Forest, shoreline, and field combined into shelter. There is little separation between the people and the environment they inhabit. Their homes are not imposed upon the landscape, they are grown from it. As night deepens, warm light glows faintly from narrow openings along the walls, small windows and smoke vents that allow firelight to escape in soft, flickering breaths. Inside, the air is warmer, thick with the scent of burning wood, dried moss, and herbs hung carefully from the rafters to season the interior through the colder months. The transition from the cold night outside to the warmth within is immediate and enveloping. At the center of most homes lies the hearth. This fire is never allowed to die completely. Even as families sleep, embers are carefully preserved beneath layers of ash, banked and protected, so that flame may be coaxed back to life at dawn, without the need to strike new sparks. The hearth is more than a source of warmth. It is the heart of the home itself. Here, meals are prepared slowly over open flame. Here, tools are repaired in the quiet hours after sunset. Here, stories are spoken, not loudly, but in calm voices shaped by long familiarity and shared routine. During the long winter nights when darkness lingers well beyond waking hours, families gather close to the hearth's glow. Hands busy with carving, mending, or weaving, while conversation drifts gently between them like the smoke that rises toward the rafters above. Light flickers across wooden walls, illuminating the grain of the timber and the tools hung neatly within reach. And as you listen tonight, you can imagine the gentle crackle of those fires, the soft shifting of timber as the structure settles in the cold, and the quiet breathing of those resting safely inside. Outside, the fjord remains still. Inside, warmth holds steady. And between the two, these homes endure, quietly sheltering the rhythms of human life beneath northern skies. In Inside these fjordside homes, daily life unfolds in rhythms shaped by necessity, weather, and the slow passage of the seasons. The warmth of the hearth reaches outward into the living space, softening the chill that lingers in the timber walls and packed earthen floors. Light is scarce at night, provided only by fire, oil lamps, and occasionally small tallow candles, whose flames burn low and steady. Shadows move gently across the interior as the fire shifts, illuminating tools, woven fabrics, and the quiet outlines of shared living. Sleeping spaces are arranged along the walls of the home, where long wooden benches serve multiple purposes throughout the day. By daylight, they function as places for sitting, working, and repairing tools. By night, they are transformed into sleeping platforms. Layers of furs, wool blankets, and woven textiles are laid carefully across the benches, creating warmth and comfort against the cold that rises slowly from the ground beneath the structure. Families sleep close together, not only for warmth, but for reassurance. The sounds of breathing, the subtle shifting of blankets, and the steady crackle of the hearth create a shared sense of safety within the enclosed space. Children sleep nearest the warmest areas, while elders often rest where air is stillest and most protected from drafts. There is little separation between sleeping and waking life here. The home is a single shared environment where rest, work, and companionship overlap naturally. Near the hearth, cooking tools are arranged with practical precision. Iron cauldrons hang from adjustable hooks above the fire, allowing food to simmer slowly through the evening hours. Wooden bowls, ladles, and carved utensils rest on nearby shelves, worn smooth from years of use. Meals are simple, but sustaining. Stews of fish, root vegetables, grains, and herbs cook gradually over low heat, filling the air with an earthy, comforting aroma that lingers long after eating has finished. Bread, when available, is baked on flat stones near the fire's edge, turned carefully by hand. Preserved foods, dried fish, smoked meats, and stored grains are kept suspended from rafters or sealed in wooden chests to protect them from moisture and pests. Nothing is wasted. Every resource is valued, prepared, and consumed with quiet respect for the effort required to obtain it. Tools used for daily survival are kept close at hand. Fishing nets, bone needles, carving knives, and wooden farming implements are stored along the walls, ready for use at first light. In the quieter hours of evening, these tools are often repaired or maintained beside the hearth. Hands move slowly and methodically, guided by memory and repetition rather than urgency. A net is mended. A blade is sharpened. A wooden handle is smoothed where splinters have risen from long exposure to cold and moisture. These tasks are not rushed. They are part of the natural closing rhythm of the day. Conversations during these hours are soft and unhurried. Voices remain low, respectful of those already drifting toward sleep. Stories may be shared, recollections of travel, weather, or family history, but they are spoken without performance, woven gently into the calm atmosphere of the home. As the night deepens, activity slows. Tools are set aside. Cooking fires are reduced to glowing embers. Lamps are dimmed or extinguished. One by one, those within the home settle into rest. The only sounds that remain are the occasional shifting of timber, the whisper of wind beyond the walls, and the steady breathing of those gathered within. And as you listen from your place beside the fjord tonight, you can imagine the warmth of those interiors, the glow of hearthlight against timber walls, the quiet presence of shared shelter, and the slow, peaceful transition from waking life into sleep beneath the northern sky. As the hours of evening settle more deeply over the fjord, activity within the homes turns toward quieter forms of work, tasks that require patience rather than strength, and steady hands rather than bright daylight. These are the hours of textile work and small crafts, when the rhythm of labor slows to match the calm of the night beyond the walls. Near the hearth, where firelight offers its steadiest glow, wool and linen fibers are gathered into baskets and laid across wooden frames. The work begins long before cloth itself takes shape. Raw wool, sheared from sheep during the warmer months, must first be cleaned, combed, and separated by hand. Each strand is drawn carefully through carved wooden carding tools, aligning the fibers into soft, workable lengths. The motion is repetitive and unhurried. Hands move back and forth in practiced rhythm, guided more by familiarity than conscious thought. The soft sound of fibers brushing together blends with the low crackle of the fire, forming a quiet backdrop to the evening's work. Once prepared, the fibers are spun into thread using simple drop spindles. The spindle turns slowly, suspended by gravity and guided by gentle twists of the fingers. Thread forms gradually, thin, strong, and slightly uneven, bearing the subtle marks of human craftsmanship. There is no urgency in this process. Spinning is done while seated, often in conversation or silence, the steady turning motion almost meditative in its repetition. Nearby, wooden looms stand against the walls, their frames tall but unobtrusive within the shared living space. Here, spun threads are woven into cloth, wool for warmth, linen for lighter garments and household use. The weaving process is methodical. Threads are lifted and lowered in sequence, while a shuttle carrying the cross thread passes back and forth through the frame. The resulting fabric grows slowly, line by line, its texture shaped entirely by hand. Each garment, blanket, or textile used within the home begins in this way, not as finished goods, but as patient accumulations of time and labor. Even the simplest cloak represents weeks of quiet work completed during evenings like this one. Other small crafts unfold alongside the weaving. Bone needles are carved and smoothed for sewing. Leather straps are cut and stitched for tools or footwear. Wooden utensils are shaped gradually with knives and files, their forms emerging slowly from blocks of timber gathered from nearby forests. These tasks require attention but not strain. They are suited to firelight, to the gentle illumination that allows hands to move, while the rest of the body settles into stillness. Conversation during these hours is soft and intermittent. Sometimes stories are shared, but just as often, silence is allowed to remain, broken only by the small sounds of work, the turning spindle, the sliding shuttle, the careful pull of thread through cloth. The presence of others nearby provides comfort enough. No constant speech is needed. As the night deepens further, the pace of work slows. Spindles turn less frequently. Looms fall still. Finished threads are wound carefully into skeins and set aside for the following day. Tools are returned to their places along the walls, ready to be used again when daylight returns. The hearth continues to glow at the center of the space, its warmth steady, its light now softer as embers settle beneath ash. And as you listen from your place beside the fjord tonight, you can imagine the quiet focus of these evening hours. Hands moving in slow repetition, cloth forming thread by thread, and the gentle calm that settles over both home and landscape, as work gives way, gradually, to rest. As the seasons turn and winter settles fully across the fjord, the rhythm of life within these coastal homes changes once more. Daylight grows brief, sometimes lasting only a few quiet hours before fading again into long northern night. Snow gathers thick along the shoreline and across the roofs of the homes, softening the landscape into stillness. Outside, sound carries differently in winter. The fjord grows quieter, its waters moving beneath thin layers of ice near the edges. Footsteps in the snow are muffled. Wind moves more slowly, its voice softened by the heavy air of cold. Within the homes, however, warmth holds steady. Fires burn longer through the winter months, fed carefully with stored wood gathered during the lighter seasons. The hearth becomes the constant center of waking life, its glow rarely absent, its presence both practical and reassuring. Evenings begin early now. As darkness falls in the late afternoon, families draw inward, closing doors against the cold and settling into the shared warmth of the interior space. Firelight flickers across the timber walls, casting long, gentle shadows that move slowly with each shift of flame. The glow is softer in winter, more subdued, as if the darkness beyond the walls absorbs some of its brightness before it can spread too far. Oil lamps supplement the hearth's light, their small flames steady and golden. Placed carefully along shelves or hanging from beams, they illuminate only what is necessary: hands at work, faces in quiet conversation, tools being repaired. Beyond their reach, the edges of the home fade into calm shadow. These dim evenings encourage a slower pace of thought and movement. Voices remain low. Tasks are chosen not for urgency but for comfort: spinning, mending, carving, or simply sitting in shared silence while watching the fire's steady motion. Storms, when they come, are heard rather than seen. Wind presses softly against the sod roofs, snow shifting gently across the outer walls. From within, the sound is distant, almost muted, a reminder of the cold world outside, held safely at bay by timber, earth, and flame. There is reassurance in that separation. The knowledge that warmth persists inside, while winter unfolds beyond. As night deepens, activity fades earlier than in other seasons. The long darkness encourages longer rest. One by one, lamps are dimmed. Tools are set aside. Blankets and furs are drawn close once more along the sleeping benches. The hearth is banked carefully, not extinguished but softened into a bed of glowing embers that will endure until morning. Firelight, now low and steady, provides just enough illumination to guide the final movements of the evening. And as you listen beside the fjord tonight, you can imagine those winter interiors, quiet, firelit and warm against the surrounding cold, where darkness is not feared, but accepted as part of the slow turning of the year. As the final hours of evening settle across the fjordside homes, wakefulness fades almost completely from within their walls. The shared space grows still, its earlier warmth and activity now softened into quiet rest. Most who live within the home have already drifted into sleep, wrapped in wool and fur along the wooden sleeping benches that line the interior. Breathing is slow and steady. The gentle rhythm of rest fills the space where conversation and work once moved. At the center of the home, the hearth remains, though its flames have lowered to a bed of glowing embers beneath pale ash. The fire is never fully extinguished. Through long tradition and necessity, someone always ensures that warmth survives the night. On certain evenings, one member of the household remains lightly wakeful for a time, not in full vigilance, but in quiet stewardship of the fading fire. They sit close to the hearth, where the air is warmest, occasionally stirring the embers with a wooden rod to maintain their glow. It is not demanding work, more a presence than a task. The gentle shifting of coals sends soft pulses of orange light across the timber beams above, illuminating the interior in slow, breathing intervals. Beyond the walls, winter darkness stretches across the fjord. Clouds drift slowly overhead, sometimes parting just enough to reveal faint constellations suspended above the frozen water. Snow rests thick along the shoreline, absorbing sound, holding the night in a deep and steady quiet. From time to time, the wind moves softly across the sod roofs, carrying a low whisper that passes quickly and fades again into stillness. Inside, the watchful presence by the hearth grows more relaxed, as the embers settle into stability. There is comfort in their steady glow, reassurance that warmth will greet the household again at dawn. Gradually, even this final wakefulness gives way. The figure beside the fire lowers their gaze, resting in the calm flicker of light, allowing stillness to take hold. The hearth, now undisturbed, continues its slow, radiant breathing. Timber walls hold the warmth. Furs and blankets hold the sleepers. And the long northern night stretches onward, quiet and undemanding. As you remain beside the fjord tonight, you can imagine those last embers glowing gently within the sheltering homes, small constellations of warmth against the vast winter darkness outside. And in that steady firelit calm, both home and listener drift together into rest beneath the northern sky.